Commissioner.
Thanks for coming in. You guys are both new to the budget process in your current seats. So over the last few years, we've worked really hard as clerk and commissioners to come up with this budget process where you really only have to come in once, keep everybody on the same page as far as budget requests, so that when we do the clerk's proposed budget, then they're already up to speed on most of what's going to be in it. So anyways, go through. We'll all have questions for you, I'm sure. But just go through, hit your highlights, any big changes or requests that you need, and we'll just go from there.
So I don't have to go through every single line, just ones I
No,
want to
just
change.
ones that you want to talk about that are concerned. If things are kind of staying the same and it's status quo,
Okay.
don't worry about it too much. If we have any questions during when we're preparing the clerk's recommendation, then we'll come chat with you about a couple of things, I'm sure.
So do you want me to start with assessor and then appraisal? Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So the one thing I'd like to discuss in the assessor part is it's actually on the A budget. We have a full-time position out there that we have not filled in 2 years. It is one of the motor vehicle techs. We've had 10 positions over there, and we're down to 7, 8, and then a part-time, but we're going to hire the part-time. But this full-time position, I'm just going to make a plea. So I was thinking that maybe, they're busy and they work their tails off over there, granted, being so, because there's only 5 techs on the line, and then we have 2 leads. The 5 techs, what I would like to propose, if possible, to move that one line item of that full-time employee and kind of figure out how we can move them to a grade 6. Hopefully utilizing some of that money. And I honestly, like you said, I'm new to this, so I don't know how that works or if that works. But I would like that considered, because if not, then I'm probably going to hire that position, because they do work their butts off over there. I'm going to say that, probably shouldn't say that. And if we could move them to a grade 6, maybe utilizing some of that money, that would be my one proposal there. Okay.
So you want all your motor vehicle techs to be a grade 6?
Yes. And I believe when I did it, and I don't know if I did it right, but it would be about $1.08 more an hour for those 5 techs. Now, the 2 leads, they're fine, but yeah. And then, I'm sure you're all aware that...
Before you go from that, can I ask you, in regard to that, with ITD taking more and more workload online, so you feel like you'll still have enough staff to do the job?
I do, and we have, what I've started doing is I've got 2 of my appraisal assistants in our department that are actually former DMV techs, and so they are helping out when they need to too. And so that and anybody that I pull down from DMV will kind of hopefully keep them so that they can be helpful up there when we get busy. Yeah. The problem is I know Christy's been really busy, I've been really busy, and so we haven't really gotten together on revenue. So we do need to look at that revenue and see where we're at, because the state keeps taking, and they're not done taking, and we do need to come over and talk about the title fee at some point, I think, if we're down in revenue. We don't really want to put a title fee on it, but depending on the revenue, we'll go there. But we do need to look at that when we have a sec. Yeah.
Now, what about your, for the past 4-ish years, we've had your position, the chief deputy, and your admin person split with appraisal, 50-50. Do you want to keep that? Do you have any?
Honestly, I don't have any preferences on that.
Okay.
I'm good, however, yeah, I know for years we didn't have it that way, So I'm good.
Okay.
If that is what works for you, yeah. Okay. Now dropping down to, I'm going to drop a little lower into this because we are changing our queuing system. We are going to put in what somebody terms a Baskin-Robbins systems, but without the ice cream. We're going to have we've already purchased it. We've purchased a ticket system. We're still going to have an online appointment system, but rather than charging us $15,000, they're going to charge us maybe $500 for that online appointment system. And then we'll have to buy, accessories for the ticket system, but
Ice cream, little freezer,
yeah.
A little freezer with some ice cream.
A little, yeah.
scoops, beach spoons.
Free
But
samples?
We're going to try this, We're going to try this and see how it works, because the main complaint we get is that people don't like signing in on that little iPad because it's confusing. And so we'll still have some sort of a semblance and organization. We'll have that. And they'll still be able to go online and make an appointment because people love that too. So I'm hoping to make the best of both worlds. So that being said, we're not going to have a $15,000 line item. We have already told QLIS that as of August 1st, we're out of the contract. We had to give them 90 days notice, which we've already done. So October 1st, did I say August 1st? October 1st, sorry, I just realized what I said. So that being said, I want to take some of that $15,000 and move it around just a little bit. So like in their operating supplies, they only had $1,500, and I'd like to up that. And I put $5,000 because right now we have several girls over there that are in need of a new chair for various reasons. We have different things we need to buy, and $1,500 doesn't cut it anymore. So I have asked that we move that around a little bit. We did put a little bit more in the computer supplies as well, because we will need, at some point, we will have to, there's some tablets that will have to stay for this new system so the girls can see where the appointments are, because we won't have the big TVs anymore. So we might have to upgrade those at one point or another, so I put that in there. I also, yeah. So that's kind of what I did with that $15,000, just moved it around a little bit, not the whole thing. I left, I believe, $1,500 in that software support, because that would pay for the annual fee and then anything else that comes up that we need for like the ticket system, because you got to buy the tickets in a roll, a system and a roll. And so that's kind of what we're looking at there.
So your hostess supplies, what do you do with your hostess supplies?
Buy ice cream. I'm kidding. So, you know what, I lowered that. I lowered that to 1,000 from 2,000 because we're just really not using it. And sometimes we use it for like, a lot of times the girls up front are invited to ITD training sessions, and each county is sometimes asked to bring the refreshments for that. And so we use that for that. We do use it when we have office meetings, if we have those type of things. Yeah.
Like, do you have water coolers over there?
We do
Stuff
have
like
water
that?
coolers.
Does that come
Thank
out
you.
of this?
Yes, that comes out of that too.
And the reason I ask this.
Thank you, I forgot that.
The reason I ask this is, I mean, this is very reasonable to me. We've had some today that have been $3,000, $5,000 for hostess supplies.
Oh.
And that's why I'm asking, yours seems very reasonable, and I just,
We have one department that was here a little bit earlier that almost all meetings that they have to have donuts.
and that's why I'm asking that. So as we look at this, I mean, that's an area that, wait a minute.
And we do buy paper products, for our office for these functions and stuff, and I think some of the employees actually use them at lunch sometimes too.
Well, and I'll
And
say,
that's-
the commissioners, we take donuts or we take something to try to do that to every office once a month. And so I'm not criticizing anybody, but I'm just wondering why you have a fairly large department, and others have the same thing, and they
I can up it.
have.
I said, I can up it. But really.
Everybody can, that doesn't mean you get it.
So, all right, and let's.
You want me to tell you about my negotiations tactics?
No. Also, let's see. Where's my other? Oh, okay, so I did leave, I will tell you this, in there, I left the travel and education budget in there. ITD, in the past, if they travel to Boise or whatever for training, a lot of times ITD will pay for everything. ITD's starting to get away from that. They have offered to send a couple of our employees to training. They're willing to pay for the motel, but not the per diems or all that stuff. So I left that in there so that if that, because we don't know what IT's going to do down the line. And so.
So the line right above that, postage.
Okay, postage, I dropped again to $5,000. Should I not be dropping things?
No, I mean, that's pretty substantial, and I just
Right.
want,
Okay, so let me,
the deal is with budgets, we can lower
but you can't.
after we make decisions, but we can't raise something.
Right.
And so I don't want you to
Right,
not put something in your original that you really think you're gonna need, and then we can have a discussion about it.
okay, so let me explain. 2 years ago, we were at $24,000 on that line item. Then we went down to 10. Right now, honestly, and we still have some in the trust. I want to say we have like 3,000 or 4,000 still in the trust, I believe, last time I looked. And so we're going to transfer some of what's in there right now over. But literally, we have used $400 so far this year with our postage. That's not in the trust, that's not the trust. And the reason
When she says
being
trust,
is,
she means the mailroom. So
You
we
what?
have, departments transfer money to the mailroom trust.
their pot.
And that's where it
Mhm.
sits, and that's what we
Yeah.
drain the money out.
sorry.
No, you're good, I was just
Like
clarifying.
like I say, I know that this is new to you, and I'm just,
Right.
as I
No.
look at things, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same
And
page.
last
So-
year, we had some struggles with deciding what was an accurate amount of money for postage.
That's right.
Yeah, and so, but with
It's a whole new
postage,
year.
It
That's
is.
all I can say.
well, wait till we get to my budget, and we're gonna have an opposite conversation about postage. But, they don't mail anything out anymore, because the registrations are all done through the state. They mail everything that when you mail in a registration, it goes straight to the state. Doesn't come in. We mail a few things out. If we get them here, if they go in our little box over there or whatever, we do mail some things out like that, but nothing. I mean, we hardly mail anything out. We hardly get any mail. In fact, I was looking at our P.O. box rental, and I'm thinking, why are we renting that for that much a year? But that, I'm going to leave that alone for right now. But, so that really has gone down that much. It really has. Yeah, we just aren't seeing it. And if I take, we had 10,000 last year, and I think right now we have 9,000 something. So I figure if even I move 5,000 of that into the trust, that's going to keep us in that line item for a while.
Okay.
So I don't feel like I'm hurting us there.
Thank you.
Hopefully not. Okay.
So let's talk about telephone right there. You got 2,100. And from what Adam said today, is that going away?
No, well, yes or no, we're not sure yet.
Okay.
Right now, he wants to keep it in that line item until we get closer to the end, because he may not need it.
So right before we do clerk's recommendation, I'll call and make sure with Adam that it's set. And then if it is set for that one monthly bill, then I'll take it out
Out of there.
of every budget.
Okay,
And if we don't know by then, we can take it out of your proposed.
Yeah.
okay.
And the other
Yeah.
thing we could honestly do is, well, no, we don't. We could do it after the budget's even passed, but then we've already asked for the monies, so.
Yeah. Okay, I just,
So
21 is a pretty big number. So, okay, thank you.
Did you have any You had some capital discussions that you wanted to make, but was that in, do you want to do that after you do your appraisal?
Oh, the capital thing? That we talked about? Yeah, let's do it after, because actually we moved it. Caitlin and I moved it over to appraisal.
Appraisal. 67. You ready to go to appraisal now?
I'm ready.
All right.
Any other questions on?
Maybe I'm ready.
Oh, and you did request a 3% COLA?
Yeah, and I just threw that in there. And I really don't,
That's just on her line is all I see it.
I really don't want to do anything else. I mean, we had to replace Randy's position, and we're in the process of doing that. Well, we'll be in the process as soon as BOE's over, filling that. But otherwise, in the A budget, I'm not feeling like we need to move anything at the moment.
You do
So-
have some retirement payout,
You what?
retirement payout,
Oh,
potentially.
you guys are on the ball. That is, but the one that I think might pay out, that's probably gonna be,
This year?
it probably will be by April. But she's not got a whole lot
Okay.
of time.
Okay.
So if it's a payout, I thought that 4,000 would more than cover it.
Okay.
All right. So I'm trying to see what I moved this all from. Operating supplies, I think 20, we have 25, I'm not sure why it went up last year, but we went from 24 to 25,000, and I'm actually, now you got me worried that I'm cutting myself short. But I lowered it to 20,000 because honestly, we haven't used that much this year, and we're really pretty set over there as far as, I mean, occasionally we need chairs and stuff like that, but nothing too major. So I moved $5,000 up to computer supplies because I want to replace, we're probably going to have to replace laptops at one time. I am in the process of giving them all their desktops back, because under the previous administration, we took desktops away and all they have is a laptop, and Adam and I agree that that's just not sufficient for them, because they have so many programs on there that are huge, and it shuts them down, it slows them up. So we are doing that. But in appraisal, we have to keep up on all that stuff. We might have to replace some tablets and stuff. So that's why I put that up a little bit on that one.
And you know that all that stuff goes through Adam,
Yeah, oh, yes.
100%.
Yes, and Adam has been great.
Okay.
He has,
And any
yes.
time we have
And-
departments that start calling and asking about computers, our office always tries to make sure that they have talked to Adam also, just to make sure he's in the loop. And then depending on if there's any other procurement that I'm not sure about, we'll even send him over to Shanna.
Yeah.
And as Randy will testify, I know nothing about computers, so I have to take Adam's word for it.
The first answer will always be no if you haven't talked to Adam. I'm just telling you right off.
Yes, we have talked to
No
Adam.
offense, but it's pretty plain.
Yes, he's the first one on my list. And the software support is for pictometry, and I don't know where that's gonna go, but I put it in there anyway to cover that. And software for the plat room, and what that means is if we go to, right now they're using, I believe, ArcGIS Pro, and if they go up any higher, we'll have to look at that too. And I think GIS kind of gets involved in that a little bit too. I'm not quite sure, but I put some of that in there to cover at least pictometry. Okay, postage. Well, yeah. Postage I'm leaving in at 10,000. Because that doesn't include Master's Touch. Master's Touch comes out of professional services.
Contract services, professional
It comes out
services,
of
yes.
what?
Yeah,
Mhm.
right down there, perfect.
Yeah, it's coming out of, yeah. And so I left that the same. And again, we're going to be transferring some into the trust because we haven't used a lot either, but we use more than DMV. Okay, so travel and education, I didn't change, I guess, yeah, I didn't change that. I left it all. I noticed in this one line it says 3,000, but it should be 4,000. I don't know why it says that. But I should have put 4,000 in there.
So how come there's two travel?
Oh, wait, those are mine and Randy's.
So-
Yeah.
We broke out travel and education with some of the other elected departments. There's travel for Anita, there's travel for Randy, and then the appraisers have their own line. Just so that you can see the cost, basically by function.
One of the reasons I didn't change that this year, because I was worried because of the per diem change, but the state is really, really, really working on doing more regional things. So when I get a new appraiser, I have to send them to 2 classes that are a week long, separately. And if I send them to Boise, that's at least $1,500 to send them. The class itself is $500. And then after paying for the per diem in the motel, we're looking at almost $1,500 a person to send them to school for a week. And then after that, they all have to stay 32 credits. They all have to stay in a 2-year period. They have 2 years to gain that 32 credits. But there are so many more regional options than there used to be. So I'm hoping this is going to cover it okay. Because we have summer school and we have winter school, but we're really trying to keep that so that they're not going over there just to go over there, that they're going over for stuff that's really going to help them. There's also opportunities through IAAO to do online courses, and we actually have done some of those. I know Commercial has done some of those. They're effective. They still cost us $500, but they don't cost us motels and per diems. So we are trying to look at that. So I didn't really change that at all, just simply because I'm hoping that we can do more regional things and not have to go to Boise all the time or wherever. And Randy and I, of course, will still be going to the conferences and stuff like that. So, and he will be maintaining his 32 credits because he's already certified. So I want him to maintain that.
Do you want to take that out of his chief deputy line, or do you want to take that out of the?
Do I want to what?
Do you want to take that out of his chief deputy line, or do you want to just keep that out of the appraiser side, since that's kind of the job side of it?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay. We can work on that.
Okay.
That'll be covered
All right.
budget-wise, but we can.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, right now we have $3,000 in the cellular telephone, and that's for their iPads, and to go out in that, is that for their laptops too? Or that's just for the iPads? And we do need to look at that, because I'm not sure how many of them are all still using those iPads, because they do use their laptops too. So that is something I need to look at. But I left it at $3,000 for right now, because I don't know how much we can lower it. Because we do need that service and data when we go out. So, let's see. So, our lease vehicle, we this year kind of had it in the wrong line. It was somehow put in the lease copier, so I just moved it down to lease vehicle. And we have those 2 Equinoxes we still are leasing. And we've had them since 2021. So, and then in professional services, professional services is something that we've used in the past in the previous assessors to hire people, to contract people. I would like to keep 15,000 in there, and the reason being, and I guess we could even keep the 20, but I've only said 15. I would like to really look into, and I don't know how feasible this is going to be, but our industrial properties need to be looked at. And right now, we don't have anybody in our office that probably is qualified to look at those. So can I send those to some of those people to school to learn that? I can, and I'm going to look into that too. But I would like to see if I could get somebody contracted. Right now, we use the State Tax Commission, and I would like to find somebody that could actually go out and look at the buildings and everything. And I don't know that 15,000 will cover it, but
I don't know either, but I'll just tell you that that's something that we'll look at very seriously, because the contractors we've had the last little while wasn't
I know.
impressed with.
I get that.
It just,
And I get that.
I think the county was taking care of.
And if it means sending
They took
some of my
advantage of us.
appraisers
Yep, they
to
do.
school to learn how to do that, that's, I would do that too. But we need somebody that knows what they're doing out there looking at those. We have three industrials, big industrials. And we need somebody we haven't looked at those properties, literally physically looked at them in a while. I'll just say that. It's been quite a while.
Do you feel like, with your current staff, if you had the funding to send somebody to get trained, that's something that you have someone in mind that could take that on as additional responsibility
Yeah.
without hiring a new person?
Probably.
We can always roll with the 15 being here, and then if you can get the classes done, we can pay for it out of the education, knowing that this line will cover it.
Mhm.
But then that gives you the options for either one.
And whoever the individual is, I mean, they become specialized, and their salaries would,
And then the salary would go up.
so it's not giving work without compensation.
Right.
It's
Right.
compensating the individual for
Right.
saving the county, but
Right.
then they are county employees.
And if that's going to be something that we're going to have to raise the pay for, then what we might want to do is add just a line item with what the pay differential would be. We won't dedicate it to anybody, but we could have it in a separate line. And then when that person does become certified, we can roll it into their pay.
Okay.
So let's
All
talk
right.
about that, and then we
Okay,
can talk
yeah.
about the revenues for
And I'll-
motor vehicles.
Okay, and I'll do some research with State Tax Commission too, if they know how we can get somebody
Okay, perfect.
that taught how to do those. Yes.
I think one of the things we were thinking about too here, if we did get somebody, a third party to do this, for the next year or whatever, at least it gives us a baseline. One thing I've found anyway, a lot of the classes we've taken, they're great in theory, but when it comes to actual foot on the ground, they're not the best. So you're out there doing a lot of guesswork. And it would be nice to have, hey, this guy's been doing it for a long time, this is what he came up with, and then the next year we're like, okay, this is what we're working with, where do we fit now? So that's just kind of, we had talked about that.
So do this for 24 and in-house 25 maybe?
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not against
Well,
going
no.
out and
No,
finding
I-
somebody to do it, but
But we did, definitely
Boy,
need to find
it's-
somebody.
And I promise it won't be previous contract holders. It will not be previous contract holders, promise that. So I moved, on that line where I had 20,000 and I dropped it down to 15, I moved 5 of it to contract services. That's our vendor, Master's Touch, that does and they're every year it seems to go up. So I put extra in there just because this year they were 23,000. And we have 25 in that line item, so we're real, so I did up that one a little bit just because we don't know what Posters is gonna do. We always have new parcels, we could, right now, building is still increasing, and so we're gonna have new parcels. And
Any
so-
of the legislative changes gonna, so that could also play in,
Of what?
the legislative
Legislative
changes?
changes,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
we could end up with another page.
Yeah, because, and that, good thought, thank you. Because right now, we just sent out one 8x10 sheet and then, of course, a letter. But those have the potential of becoming 2 sheets all by themselves. And so that would increase that. And I actually do have an estimate from Master Session. I mean, they can't completely estimate, but they kind of gave me an idea of what it might be if we have to increase a 3rd page in that envelope.
Is 30 gonna be enough then?
Hope so. I hope so. I mean, like I said, this year was 23. So, yeah. And, yeah. And Jennifer and I honestly have both discussed Master's Touch, but we just don't know if anybody's gonna be any cheaper to go anywhere else. And I send out 45,000 pieces of mail. And so, anyway, that's where I'm at on that. Okay, and did I miss hostess supplies? I think I did, but I think I dropped that one in ours too.
It's 1,000.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Sorry, but I know I lowered that one too.
We looked.
Yep.
And let's see, okay, so, and I've left GIS mapping at $5,000 so that we could use that for map cabinets or supplies that the plat room needs. And so honestly, if you have any questions, then we can go down to capital.
I've been waiting for that one.
Yeah. So are there any questions?
Just the one, where's your vehicle leases? I didn't,
Oh, they're actually under the lease copier equipment. They should.
oh, right at the top, wasn't it?
Right, but
Okay.
yeah. So,
Okay, because I was looking at this comments on capital leases. and stuff. I
right,
just-
and I put that in there because I didn't know where else to put it. But eventually, we're gonna need to look at either, I mean, we're gonna be at the end of those leases in what, 3 years? Is that right? So at the end of that, I don't know where you guys are at. I know you've had discussion on leases before. So right now, we have 7 or 8 vehicles,
12.
but
I've seen that parking lot.
Did you put pebbles on the tires?
Yep, they're still there from a year ago. Somebody else did it.
and
But let me
so-
tell you about vehicles.
Okay,
And we have the 2 gentlemen that just left here in Shanda working on a policy, a county policy of purchasing, leasing, how many miles are being put on them, what's going on, who takes vehicles home, all this stuff. We're figuring that all out, and we should have that here shortly. And we'll come out with some policies that will help everybody know, well, we put X number of miles on it, so we should lease, or we don't put miles on it, so we should purchase. And if one department can end up getting vehicles from another department, depending on usage and stuff like that. So that's all gonna come out in the next week or so. So I just to let you know, we
Okay.
are working on that.
that's great. And we do have, we have one vehicle that I think has a whole lot of miles on it, but it's a 4-wheel drive. And so we're able to get up into the lava Thunder Mountain area with it. So, we do have some older ones like that. All right.
That's all good information to know.
Okay, so, and we do borrow ours out. Lend them out if people need them.
Yes, you do.
Certain
Thank you.
people need them, we do lend them out. And it's, during like this time of the year, we're not out in them at all. And then, yeah, really not a whole lot anyway. And so there's periods of time where, okay.
Well, another factor I want everybody to think about is the size of a vehicle. We have some individuals that going into Rogue is very, very tough to ride in. So as we look at vehicles, leasing or whatever, purchasing, we need to look at, there's a lot of individuals that could not drive to Coeur d'Alene in some of the vehicles we have.
Yeah, and Our equinoxes have been pretty good for that, because we have people that would struggle with that too, and they like our equinoxes, so they've been a good card. All right, well, let's go to capital. So I think, and I don't have a copy of it. I didn't have a copy with me of what I sent, but I attached a list. I forgot that part. I was asked to get a, what do you call it, an estimate from Dan on everything that needs to be done to our side of the building. So I did, and it came up to $965,000. I was also asked to put them in order of preference for me, and you know, preference of what I see as most. And honestly, I'm going to be really, so the majority of these things on this are things that just have to be done to the building, such as lighting, HVAC, security systems. And I probably should have put the upgraded DMV front counter first, because those people that come in that counter, that area, they have this much ledge to write a check on. Now I can take that glass out, but the problem with that, if I take that glass out, then they take their whole purse and they just shove it right in the girl's face, because there's no place to sign. If we could get a signing counter underneath so they had somewhere to work and set their stuff, the customers, that would be great. He didn't break that out. He just kind of put it all in a lump sum in that particular line. I don't know what the cost on that would be, but we can probably get him to break that out. That's really, to me, that's customer service, and that should come first, so that those people have a signing ledge, because they don't. Can't even put your checkbook up there really and sign. And I know it sounds stupid, but I really want that building painted. I hate that color. We do have some old paint over there that a previous assessor bought 4 years ago. I don't know if it's even good. It's certainly not enough to paint the whole building, but
Well, next year on this day, we can take offices that are not busy and we can paint the whole thing.
there you go. We'll have a paint fest. Our own private paint fest. And so, and you know, our security system over there,
I had a judge tell me last Thursday.
we have buttons. We do have buttons. And, you know, I mean, it'd be great to have a nicer security system, but at the same time, you'd have to man it. You'd have to man it. And so that worries me, because you'd have, you know, that would be one extra person to have to man it. Because even if you had some sort of a thing that people could walk through, unless somebody's manning it, it's not gonna. So anyway, security would be great, but I just, the HVAC system, I know you know that we have a horrible heating system over there and air conditioning system over there. In the summer we freeze, the winter we cook. But all these, and lighting, would, I mean, all these would be great to have, but I also know how costly they are. And I was asked to have this looked at.
So there's no public restroom over there, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay,
I mean, if somebody's really having an issue, we let them go back and we get them through the locking door, but there is not a public restroom there.
I was thinking about, and then as we talk about this too, we're talking about what to do with 6th Avenue out here, closing off, whatever and stuff. So I think that parts of this, I mean, talking about security and stuff like that, how we block things off, what we do, is part of the conversation with that also.
Okay. And when you talk about 6th Avenue, you'll still keep us in mind about the
Inspection.
he's over there shaking his
Well,
head.
I'll just tell you that after just the 2 days that we had, that people can park in the church parking lot, we need to have a serious discussion of what we can do, where we can park. I mean,
Yeah.
we got the juvenile center over there now, but that's a block away.
Mhm.
But if the church ever told us no,
I know.
I mean,
Yeah,
we gotta
everybody-
consider you guys and bringing vehicles in and inspecting and,
But then you have everybody parking in these lots, and then the public has nowhere to park. And so, and we hear about that, so.
nobody pays attention to signs anyway.
I know.
I see more people walk across the
Oh, yeah,
street.
all the time.
Yes, I agree. So, anyway, but honestly, I don't even think some of these are really, they're more a building type thing than out of my personal budget.
Well, and the truth of the matter is, we have to decide where we're gonna invest money. We have to have a good conversation with Dan about the life of that building. But I was talking to somebody, well, it was when I was up around Moscow and looking at some of them old buildings and stuff where the frat houses are and stuff like that. They're beautiful. And too many times we want to just tear down, and this isn't a beautiful architect building, but too many times we want to tear down an old building and build something new. And I think that we need to sometimes evaluate the culture and I mean, if we have an old building, I'd just soon try to save it as tear it all down. I know it costs more money, but boy, some of them frat houses, they were beautiful.
I love it when customers come in there and tell me about how they sat at the old ice cream bar up at the front. And it's kind of fun. But, yeah, so that's my thing on Capitol Outlay.
I remember shopping there with my mom.
I used to go over and break and get my groceries and then go home. Yeah, so
Okay,
that's all I have.
well, how was it, your first experience?
It was good. It was good. Nobody barked or.
No, that
You know
comes
what?
back to the clerk's
I think I even had him a little nervous. I think I even had Randy a little nervous.
It was a lot easier for us this year too,
So,
just saying.
Well, there was a budget.
are we still on?
Blame on somebody else. For not
Yep, we're still
doing
on.
budget.
Yep.
All right.